So it is time for us to chat property this afternoon, and in the hot seats, as usual this afternoon, is Harry from Etchells Young. A very good afternoon to you, and welcome to the show.
Hey, awesome. Thank you very much.
Hold on, I have to get used to all these microphone buttons. You would imagine I've never done radio before. But welcome, Harry.
Thank you. Thanks, Al. Great to be here. Always a pleasure to come in and do the slot with you guys.
Lekker. Now, last week we chatted about being a tenant, wanting to rent a place. You gave us a whole lot of very good suggestions and advice as to becoming that tenant that landlords would like in their properties. So today I thought, you know what, why don't we swing it around and let's find out how you could become a great landlord instead of a great tenant, right?
Good one, absolutely. I think it's a great way to continue on what we spoke about last week.
Yeah, so let's start with the basics. Many landlords think pushing up rentals, and I'm talking about the monthly rental fees, always means better returns. Is this a factual statement?
Definitely not. One of the biggest mistakes that a landlord can make is to overprice his property.
Yeah.
And in exactly the same way that we spoke last week, that a tenant must stand out amongst other tenants to be selected by the landlord if there's more than one applicants. In the same way, tenants know exactly what properties are worth, and if a landlord wants to become a little bit greedy or push his return maybe a little too much, he effectively prices himself out of the market, and that property being vacant for a couple of months can have a devastating effect on his return on investment. And I brought some stats, and I'm just gonna talk very high level. If, as an example, a landlord, if he priced his property correctly, he would get 100,000 rand a year. Okay, so that's just on 8,000 rand a month.
Yeah.
That kind of property, the fixed costs for the year, I'm talking levy, rates and taxes, his management fee, some maintenance, is approximately 30%. So on 100,000. And this is actually low. It might be quite a bit higher than that.
Yeah.
30-odd thousand of his 100,000 rand is going to be fixed cost.
Yeah.
As that property stands vacant in month 1, month 2, month 3, those fixed costs don't go away.
Yeah.
You still got to pay your rates and taxes. You still got to pay your levies. You still got to plan for your annual sort of maintenance spend. And that means if that property is vacant for 4 months, your rental collection goes down from 100,000 to 65,000.
Gee whiz, there's your whole maintenance budget in its glory.
Your costs are 30,000.
Yeah.
Whereas in the first example, he was getting 100,000 rand for the year. His cost was 30,000. He's still left with 70. Now you're collecting 65. Your costs are 30. You've got 35 left. It's a significant difference. Whereas if you drop that rental to the correct rental, you very quickly normalize, and you're losing $200 or $300 a month on the rental that perhaps you wanted but was above the market, but you're getting a good tenant and you're getting the property occupied from month 1. So don't overprice your property.
And I suppose tenants do the research, let's be honest.
Absolutely, they do.
If I'm looking for let's say a townhouse in a certain estate, I'm going to go and look at the history of what properties we're renting for in the last 3 months.
You're going to look at what's available,
Absolutely.
What's currently being advertised in that estate, and you're soon going to see if one is much more expensive than the rest. And there's obviously very good reason for it.
Yes, like one might be 14,000, the other one is at the number that you mentioned, 8,000. But the description should tell you that.
Exactly.
If it doesn't.
Exactly. There will be differences that cause one property to be worth more.
Yeah,
it might be a 3-bedroom versus a 2-bedroom.
Yes, might have a double garage instead of a carport.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But generally, tenants know what the value is, and they will have a look, and they'll do their homework.
Yeah. How important is presentation when marketing a rental product or a rental property, in fact?
It's very, very important because, as we said again, you need to stand out. And currently in the market, there are a lot of properties available for rent. And you need to make sure that you're going to catch a good tenant's eye. So let's assume that you've stuck to point one, you've priced the property correctly. Now you need to ensure that within that price band, your property stands out. So having good professional photographs is the first very important thing that you need to do.
And professional, because I've actually seen photographs of a property, right? And they took a photograph of a small bedroom, and they made it look so much bigger. I mean, even the single bed was a queen size.
Yeah, so let's make sure that the stuff is realistically portrayed. But the difference between just getting the lighting right and the way that photograph and that property pops it can make a massive difference. Obviously, the other thing is, if you're owning an investment property and you're in this for the long term and you want consistent returns, make sure that you maintain that property well. Make sure you upgrade it from time to time. And it doesn't always have to be massive things like kitchens and bathrooms. It can be small things, light fittings, small little features here and there, a neat and tidy garden. Putting a gravel bed in is much better than an untidy, patchy piece of lawn. With one or two nice features. So it doesn't necessarily always have to be big, massive things, but there are certain little things that you can do to make your property stand out. Absolutely.
Now, as a landlord, if I decide I don't want to use Etchells Young and I'm going to try this all by myself, what should I never skip during the tenant screening process?
So I think we've spoken about this before in previous shows as well, and I will unashamedly admit it, and it's our biggest secret is screening tenants properly. I had a meeting with my team yesterday. Our current arrears rate is 1.3%, and we collect well over 10 million bucks a month in rental. 1.3% of tenants hadn't paid by the end of the month, so that was about 130 odd thousand rand that hadn't been paid, and most of that has been paid now in the following month. But in order to get that, you have to screen that tenant. You must make sure they can afford the property. Do your checks. Check his payslip. Check his bank statements. Make a call to his company and check with the HR system or the HR department and verify his employment and his salary. Speak to the previous landlord, but be careful. That's the best way to get rid of a tenant you don't want, by giving him a glowing review as well. And unfortunately, we've been caught by that, and it's not so funny when it actually happens. You get this fantastic review of a tenant. You grab him and he starts defaulting in the first or second month. And also look beyond just the income. We spoke about tenants, and we're going to perhaps speak about it a little bit later, about building a relationship and building a rapport. Find somebody that you can work with, because this is a working relationship, a business relationship, isn't it? So check how the person communicates with you, and there's a famous adage, character over competence. Try and establish, is this somebody that I can do business with? Because to make a mistake with a wrong tenant who either can't afford or starts giving you grief for no reason can be very, very costly in the long run.
I can imagine. Now, again, I'm going to dodge Etchells Young, which is not advisable, but I decide I'm going to draft a lease agreement. I asked ChatGTP to help me, and we know how ChatGTP can let one down. How important is a professionally drafted lease agreement?
So, firstly, there are quite a few platforms and areas where you can get this without paying an attorney his hourly rate of 2,000 or 3,000 rand an hour to get this done for you. But it is vitally important. We've also spoken on previous shows about, what is the transaction that you actually are presenting in a rental, and that 10,000 rand a month rental that the tenant is going to pay in today's market means a landlord is giving you about a 1.5 million rand property. The landlord needs to protect that in the lease. But in the same way, a tenant's rights also need to be protected. I mean, we're speaking about what a landlord must do right here. But he needs to make sure that he's got the best possible tenant, that the terms and conditions are fair, that they're relevant, and that they're lawful. Very important. I mean, those two laws we've spoken about quite a few times, the Rental Housing Act and the Consumer Protection Act. You cannot contract out of law. They're going to apply. So incorporate them in your lease agreement and make sure that that lease agreement can stand up in court if you ever need it. A lease agreement is one of those things that you argue and you fight about up front. Eventually you get it done and dusted and signed, and then you stick it in the file, and hopefully you never need it again.
Yeah.
But if you do need it, you need to make sure it's going to stand up.
Indeed. Now, we kind of briefly discussed this last week, but a message that just came through says, why is the norm to increase rent by 10% annually when obviously nobody else gets 10% annually? Why do landlords want to chase away good tenants by doing this?
So I tell you, that is such a good question. And it's one of the points that we perhaps should also have been discussing in these top tips for landlords.
Yeah.
And again, as I use the example of overpricing your property, keeping a tenant who is a good tenant, who you have a good relationship with, but perhaps he doesn't want to meet your 10%. 10% is quite out of date as far as I'm concerned. In fact, we even as Etchells Young used to have a standard increase of 10% written in our leases, but probably until about 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And then we changed that because 10% is just way too high. You know, as your listener said, no one is getting who recently got a 10% increase in their salary. You know, it's few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
So rather stick to a much more realistic rental increase and keep a tenant. It's much cheaper in the long run. You know who you've got. You know that the guy's been paying his rent. You're not going to want to keep him if he hasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And you also know that you're rather going to stick to a slightly lesser of an increase, but have a good tenant who pays his rent on time and who looks after your property, because that's vitally important in this whole relationship as well.
You see, what I reckon they should do is, if the interest rate goes up, you pay that amount of rent. If it goes down, give us a discount if we're renting.
So I think probably a better one than that. I hear where you're coming from, because effectively that's going to affect the landlord's bond repayment. If the interest rate goes up, his bond repayment's going up. If it drops, it drops.
Yeah.
But often we refer to the inflation rate rather as a starting marker, or you know, the consumer price index, or one of the other measurable indices that are easily available in the market. So
Absolutely.
you peg it to one of those, which is generally a better way to go.
Now another thing that might be quite important is maintenance. And what role does maintenance play when looking for a quality tenant long term?
Well, as we've spoken about again, and I'm going to go back to quite a few previous shows, probably one of the biggest areas of contention between a landlord and a tenant comes down to maintenance. And specifically when the landlord doesn't do the maintenance that he's required to do. Again, the Rental Housing Act is quite clear about what a landlord is responsible for and what a tenant is responsible for. If the landlord is responsible for the maintenance, and we see it time and time again with some of our clients too, the guys get all sorts of excuses about why they're not going to do maintenance. But again, if you have a fantastic tenant in your property, you've gone through all the previous lot of points and you've got the right guy in there, why are you not going to do just what you need to keep him happy? Because, I mean, a decent tenant is going to respect your responding to his request. Also, maintenance items, if you don't do something small today, tomorrow, next week, next month, that becomes a big expense.
Yeah.
So sometimes dealing with stuff quickly and promptly, sorting it out, number one, keeps your tenant happy. And secondly, it's protecting and keeping your property investment in tip-top shape too.
Now, what separates an average landlord from an excellent landlord? And I think we've spoken about this before too.
We spoke about this last week, and we probably pointed it to one of the biggest things that tenants should do is develop a relationship. It's a long-term relationship. And I think the same applies to a landlord. What sets one apart from the other, the average from someone who's really good, is their communication. Communicating with that tenant, being respectful, being professional, and really doing the things that requires that you would do if you're nurturing and valuing a long-term relationship. And then we spoke about it. If you have selected the right tenant and all the other criteria have fallen into place, you want this to be a 4 or 5 year relationship. So why not do your bit to not be responsive and reactive and confrontational, which unfortunately way too many landlords out there are. They just want to fight rather than look at the long-term benefits of a healthy relationship.
Yeah. Now, we've been speaking about landlords considering renting their properties off by themselves. But what I want to ask you is, why should landlords consider using a professional rental agent like yourselves?
Oh, yeah, and this is, it's sometimes difficult to even answer this without being biased, but even if this agent that we're referring to is not Etchells Young, it's someone else. Usually, agents do this for a living. They deal with these issues day in and day out. And I would say, from a landlord's perspective, unless you are managing your own portfolio of 10 or 20 properties, you're doing it full time, then go for it.
Yeah.
Educate yourself, understand the law, know the stipulations of your lease. Otherwise, leave that stuff to an agent. If you are working another job or another career, then surely this is important enough to leave in the hands of somebody who does this for a living, day in, day out. Especially when it comes to the legal and compliance stuff. That sometimes is a mission. Let us take care of it for you. Let us take care of your business while you get involved in your main business.
Indeed. Makes a whole lot of sense. So if you would like to take the advice on rentals and invest your property let Etchells Young manage your property portfolio, you can speak to the team at Etchells Young. How do we get a hold of you?
So, the office number is easy, and by going through that, you're going to get to the right person. It's Joburg code 011-791-5134.
Yeah.
Or you can find us on our website. You can list your property there. You can find all of our different agents there. And that's easy. That's Etchells and Young, 2 words with and in between, .co.za. Or if you want to get a hold of me directly, you're welcome to drop me an email, Harry, HARRY, at etchellsandyoung.co.za.
Easy peasy.
Exactly.
Now, it's what I always wait for every single week, is the property of the week. And this afternoon we're chatting with Nadine Meiberg.
No relation.
No?
Different spelling.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I
really.
didn't know that.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyway, a very good afternoon to you, and how are you, Nadine?
Hi, all well, thanks, and you?
Very good, thank you. I believe you have our property of the week. You have put on the Etchells Young hat. And tell us what you've got today for our property of the week.
Perfect. Thank you for having me on the show today. I'd like to actually introduce you to a beautiful townhouse in the popular Sabiti private estate in Fourways. This is a corner unit which offers 2 spacious bedrooms, 2 modern bathrooms, and a bright open plan living area, perfect for comfortable everyday living. The kitchen is a modern open plan design with a center island, plenty of cupboard space, and flows easily into the lounge and dining area. This home makes it an excellent entertainment and family area for relaxing and entertaining. One of the best features of this property is a private wraparound garden, ideal for your pets, entertaining outdoors, or enjoying your morning coffee in peace and quiet. As a corner unit, it offers extra private and more outdoor space. Sabiti Estate is an excellent 24-hour security and is conveniently located close to schools, shopping centres, restaurants, gyms, and major routes. Whether you're a first-time buyer or young professional or investor, this home offers fantastic value and great location. It is currently on offer for 1.99 million rand.
That's not bad at all. At all. And how do we get a hold of you, Nadine, if somebody has been listening and they want to take advantage of this property?
You can contact me on 083 357 3190, or otherwise email me direct at Nadine M, NADINEM at etchellsandyoung.co.za.
Nice and simple.
And we can arrange a viewing.
And I take it this property is on the website as well. So if somebody wants to go and check it out.
Yes, it is.
Fantastic.
Yes, it is. It's on our Etchells website.
Fantastic. Nadine, thank you very much for making the time. Nice chatting, and let's chat again soon.
Yes, you too. Thanks so much, Al.
Lovely. Cheers now. Bye-bye.
Cheers, bye.
Harry, that's us for this week. We'll do it again next week.
That's it, indeed. Thank you so much, Al. Always a pleasure being here.
Lovely. Catch you next week. Let's continue with the music this afternoon. Here's the Fine Young Cannibals.